board members and Dr. Green. At this time, I will introduce Sydney Burgess. Sydney is a 10th grade student at Jim Hill High School under the leadership of Bobby Brown and assistant principals Larry Armstrong, Eric Johnson, and Dr. Shalitha Fisher. Sydney is the daughter of Nimba Burgess and Jamal Burgess. She's a student in the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program and a member of TAP, SGA, Tigerette, Jim Hill Symphonic Band, and a staff member in JROTC. She plans to attend Mississippi State University, majoring in paleontology, and later pursuing a doctorate degree in paleontology. She's a member of Agape Christian Fellowship Church under the leadership of Pastor Doc Cooper III.
Good afternoon. I will be saying the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish and in English. First in English. I pledge, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now in Spanish. Yo prometo lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios indivisible con libertad y justicia para todos. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. Hold on one second.
Go, Sydney.
Sydney, do you have any family members here with you today? We're going to ask your mom to stand. Thank you. Next, we have our words of encouragement by our very own Dr. Ed Sivak.
Hey.
Dr. Sivak is the Chief Policy and Communications Officer for Hope Credit Union. As a member of Hope's executive team, Dr. Sivak leads a team that drives the organizational the organization's policy, advocacy agenda, and its communication with members, community partners, investors, media, and other stakeholders. He and his wife, Jan, reside in Jackson and are the proud parents of JPS Middle School and JPS High School scholars.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
For those who regularly tune into our meetings, you know we've gotten into the practice of asking students to offer a reflection. It's frankly the best part of the meeting. Well, with the holidays upon us, when we turned to our schools, we realized that the buildings were empty because they were on break. So when Ms. Williams, our board secretary, who does so much really to support each of us on the board, reached out and asked me to share the reflection, I could not, and I believe she would not, let me excuse my way out of it. So let me begin. 493 days ago, I suffered a traumatic accident while hiking. After falling 20 to 30 feet, waiting with uncertainty for rescue, a ropes team descended to the cliff where I had landed miraculously, secured my broken body to a backboard, and lifted me out of the canyon. Dozens of doctors, nurses, aides, family members, friends, co-workers played huge roles in the weeks and months that ensued, getting me back to the state that you see me in here today, mentally, physically. And while I'll never be the same, I cannot help but be grateful for a second chance. You know, a second chance offers a unique window into the insight of decisions made and decisions yet to be made, of a life lived and of a life yet to be lived. It offers the opportunity to do what one did not do prior, to simply be better at what we were put here to do in the first place, to live for others. 807 days ago, we, JPS, were given a second chance. There are days when I'm so proud of what we've accomplished together and in partnership. Over the last 800 days, the passing of the bond, the successful recruitment of Dr. Green, the work of our principals and teachers to raise test scores and provide engaging learning environments, the naming of this leadership team, the adoption of our strategic plan, the steady march towards the attainment of MDE standards, and of our students. If you tune in, of our students, those who speak with poise and elegance at our OTC Gala, those who perform at Carnegie Hall, those who publish scientific research in peer-reviewed journals, these are our students. These are our students today. It is in these moments we're filled with gratitude. I feel confident we're making the most of our second chance. Yeah. And yet, there are still moments when we fall down, where my heart breaks, where my heart aches for our children. You know, the farther one gets from the big bang of the second chance, the easier it is to take it and all it is given for granted. And so as I close tonight, my charge to all of us to never forget that we have been given the privilege to do this work, to live out this vocation, because we were given a second chance. Let us not take this fact for granted and simply be better at what we were put here to do, to live for others, to live for our students. Yeah. Thank you all.
You don't get a bag, Ed?
I was just going to ask, where's my basket?
And what about your picture? You don't get a picture either? Thank you, Dr. Seaback. Board members, we have 6 members present, and therefore we have a quorum. We've had an opportunity to review the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Harrison, seconded by Mr. Figurs. All in favor? Aye. Nays? There being none, the motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is the approving of the minutes. Board members, we've had an opportunity to review the minutes in advance. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for December 17, 2019?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Luckett and seconded by Dr. Harrison. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? There being none, the motion is approved. Now it's time for the superintendent's report. Dr. Green.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson, President Johnson, board members, JPS administrators, staff, parents, members of the community, all of those who are joined with us here this evening and those watching. We're going to start my remarks with a video presentation that our talented instructional television production team has created for us. We'll begin there.
District employees return from the winter break to a rousing and motivational spring convocation hosted by Superintendent Dr. Eric Green. The theme was, "Ain't no stopping us now, we're on the move." The convocation kicked off our second semester of the 2019-2020 school year for teachers, students, staff, and administrators. The event was held at the Mississippi Coliseum. Jackson Public Schools has implemented a clear bag policy for all sporting events for the new school year. The policy, established as an effort to provide a safer environment for the public, limits the size and type of bags that may be brought into athletic facilities. Exceptions will be made for medically necessary items after proper inspection at the gate. For more information about the clear bag policy, please contact the JPS Athletics Department at 601-960-8825. Jobs for Mississippi graduates, students, achievers travel to the nation's capital to compete for national titles in 4 academic competitions: public speaking, employability skills, math skills, and project-based learning. Zacchaeus Wallace of Murrah High School won the 2nd place award for math. Wallace is a senior in the Academic and Performing Arts Complex, or APAC program at Murrah High School. The mission of the organization is to educate, equip, and empower students to obtain successful outcomes in life. For more information about Jackson Public Schools, please visit our website at jackson.k12.ms.us and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel.
So as you heard, we had our JPS convocation. I know, right? Slip of the tongue. Jackson Public Schools convocation yesterday at the Coliseum, and contrary to what you might have seen here in the video clip, I actually did more than just sing and dance. We actually had some words of encouragement and just joined together as a team. Really important that we, as one team in this district, remind ourselves that we're not in this work alone, that we do have one another to lean upon, and that we grow together. And that was really one of the big messages of the convocation, along with, of course, we're on the move and there's nothing that can stop us but us. And so wonderful way just to celebrate and recommit to this work that stands ahead of us, and kind of owing back to Dr. Sivak's words, understanding that we do have this second chance to rebuild and to reignite the power that is Jackson Public Schools. And so appreciate all those that helped to make yesterday's program one that was pretty powerful. And also today, I think everyone knows, we welcome back our young people into our schools. So as I was able to get out and visit a school this morning, just excited to see young people back in the learning space, and excited about learning, excited about being here with us, and of course, our wonderful educators engaging from the very first moment this morning of school. Jackson Public Schools visual arts students were recently recognized at the Outstanding Artists and Artisans of the Future, which is a yearly high school art show and competition that's held as part of the Chimneyville Arts Festival. More than 35 works of art produced by Power APAC students were selected for display at the competition. 4 of our students received awards and cash prizes. Ooh, maybe able to borrow some money from someone. Power APAC teachers Rena Moore and Elise Payne are here now will join us to share more information about these outstanding achievements and about our students. And ladies, did you intend to be color coordinated?
We did this by accident.
Look at you.
But we are wearing our school colors.
Way to go.
Thank you. It's our honor to present these very talented students. Our first one, Sarah Demas. Sorry, Demas. We step right up. She's going to tell us about her artwork. Do you want to come speak on the microphone?
Okay. Hi, my name is Sarah Demas, and this piece is called Waiting for the Bus. It was from my AP portfolio called A Day in My Life. And so I was inspired to do it when I was standing outside with my friend, and we've been waiting for the bus for a really long time.
No shade.
Sure, it went so quick.
Our next student is Mariah Rollins.
Hello, my name is Mariah Rowland, and I was wanting to challenge myself with creating a full, well, almost full, but a portrait piece using Prismacolors.
Our next student was Charles Rounds, and he actually did receive Best in Show at the competition.
My name is Charles Rounds, and this artwork was inspired by a young boy in my grandmother's neighborhood named George, and he was obsessed with nature. And it's called Panama City.
And our last student is Desmond Young.
So, of course, my name is Desmond Young, and this is my piece, and the title of my piece is Life More Abundant, Life More Free. So the inspiration behind this piece was I just wanted to take people through the journey that I experienced myself, my personal experience, and which was going from living going to just living and transitioning to becoming a follower of Christ. And I just wanted to show people that journey.
Thank you.
What grade are y'all? They're Power. to their middle school.
These are high school kids.
These are 10th grade.
11th and 12th grade.
11. I know it's not middle school.
So are all of these pieces of work spoken for? Yeah. They're all spoken for?
In other words, are they for sale?
Right. Are you sure they're spoken for?
Parents probably don't want to let go.
Thank you so much.
I am routinely blown away by the talent that is found here in Jackson Public Schools, routinely, and I'm not using these words lightly. That was remarkable, remarkable work, young folks, and so thank you for sharing with us, and I'm so glad to see that your work is, one, being nurtured by our own wonderful educators, but also that you're getting the notoriety already for the work that you're doing, and I expect to see more and more of your work. And if you change your minds, and if either of those pieces becomes available, come holler at your boy. Are there any parents related to these wonderful artists here? If you would, please stand and be acknowledged. Thank you, thank you. Get them some agents. Serious, do it now. All right, thank you again, appreciate y'all being here. As we do each month, we'd like to use a little bit of time to provide you with some updates, board members, regarding our progress and challenges surrounding the bond program. We're continuing to ensure that all of the projects are being completed with quality and in a reasonably timely fashion. Mr. Don McCracken, our Executive Director of Facilities and Operations, will join us now to present us with more information.
As they continue to pass it along, Mrs. Johnson, Dr. Green, board members, good evening, or good afternoon. I'm here to provide you with an update with the bond program as to where we are at this juncture. We're making significant strides to accelerate projects, and we have more staffing to do such. The very first item that I would like to share with you like we're having a little technical difficulty here. As they provide that information, you do have a copy before you, and we would just like to share with you where we are. Starting with the very first page, of course, the bond program, there are various schools with some that are affected by CAP program, and the schools that we're in the process of requesting clearance are Provine, Wilkins, and Van Winkle. We have submitted our request to our MD coordinator for Jackson, which is Dr. Merritt, and from there to go to Dr. Green, and from there to MDE. And once that has been received, they should be out within a couple of days to make those corrections or make those visits. There were some infractions that were given to us on those particular schools. Those have all been corrected, and with that, we hope that we can get a clearance hopefully next week if their schedule will permit. The next following page, which consists of projects that have been completed. As of now, we're completed right at 42 projects, and of those 42, 12 of those projects have been completed since our last meeting, December 3rd, 2019. Each month, we would like to add approximately 10 to 12 projects, or as many as our staff can hold or manage, as well as what the industry will allow. So at this juncture, we've completed, again, right at 42 projects. And this is a listing of all the work that has been done. Certainly don't want to go through the entire list. You may have seen some of these, but we're adding each month, so we'll have a full rundown of all the activities and schools that are affected by the bond program. The next list, we have right at 21 projects that are under construction. And that constitutes projects that are in various stages of construction. Some are at 10%, some are right at 80%, as well as close to 90%. So we will be providing you with the updates on those as well. And as these progress, they will roll off to those projects that have been completed. This is a note that we would like to always keep before you, as well as the public, and it just pretty much denotes activities that may occur during the construction, latent conditions, changing of having to rebid due to availability of contractors, and also to make sure that we can stay within the confines of the budget. We're doing a number of things to help keep the projects within budget, such as value engineering, and also using our staff to do some of the work as well.
Mr. McCracken, can
Yes.
you just pause and explain value engineering?
Value engineering is really looking at all the detailed aspects of a project, the materials, the location of the materials, the delivery of the materials, and how we can best reduce that cost. If there's a substitute item that will not interfere with integrity, structural integrity, or the integrity of that particular project, we will look at that substitute. Nothing that will certainly be threatening or anything that will be inferior. We certainly look at the equal quality of products that are associated with any item that's associated with that project. So that is what is deemed value engineering.
Thank you.
This list is a grouping of projects that are scheduled to bid. You may see TBD, to be determined. The projects that are having to be rebid, the professionals are working diligently to complete that work, and we will be setting new dates and times for those projects to be presented. So we didn't take them off the list. We just wanted you to be apprised of the work that is scheduled to be done. This will increase within the next month. We will have even more projects to bid. So we have several projects that will bid this month, January 29th, January 16th, January 10th, I think that was, and others. So each month we will be adding to that significantly. The next grouping, of course, is phase 2, as we always shared, that phase 2 and phase 1 will merge, and they have. And we're beginning to initiate a number of projects from phase 2 so that we can stay within the confines of the timeline that is given to us to complete the projects. We've completed 1 year. We anticipate having right at 114, 15 projects completed within the next couple of months. So we would have met that timeline for the first year. The second year would probably be the same amount, 115, 120 projects. And the final year, 115, 120 projects. So we have a lot of projects. You may not see the expenditure at this juncture because they haven't invoiced us yet at this juncture, but we will keep you apprised of that as it comes. And lastly, just some samples of some of the work that is being done at CDC. We've had some challenges with people with ADA entrances to that facility, as well as just the meandering walk to the door. So we had to remove all the pavers, and now we're putting in new concrete for that, at that location to make it much smoother. The next location is also at, or the next project is also at CDC, and it's in reference to removing all the carpet that had been stained for years. We've done everything in our power to try to remove the stains. It has become somewhat of a health hazard, a tripping hazard. So we found that it was in our best interest to certainly remove that, including the bond program, and we've already begun, and that work is completed. And the last item is just a small project at Obama Magnet School. This is just canopies over the auditorium exits, and also playground equipment canopies that will be located at various locations per the location of the administrator, as well as the area superintendents in terms of the exact location where the canopies will be placed. And with that, I do not have any more. Are there any other questions? Or are there any questions?
Thank you, Dr. McCarthy.
Okay. Thank you.
Just one question, Mr. McCracken. As we continue to talk about the overlapping of phases 1 and 2, phase 1 coming into this calendar year, which is for phase 2, and phase 2 projects continuing through the end of the calendar year.
That's correct.
This being the second of 3 years for the bond project, do we anticipate to be at least or right around 2/3 of the way or further complete with projects at the end of this second of the 3 years?
That is our schedule, and we intend to try to meet that schedule. So the answer is yes.
So the plan is yes to be at least 2/3 of the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And as a reminder, we scheduled the larger projects,
First.
most of the larger projects for phase 1.
That is correct. And the smaller projects, phase 2 and phase 3. And a lot of those projects are under $50,000 so that we can execute those very quickly with local vendors, and that is the plan.
Can I follow up on a couple of questions?
Sure.
What percentage would you say we are, as of today, completed, if we're looking at to be 2/3 of the way done?
Close to a third.
25%, 15%? What's close to a third?
I was 30, I would say 29% plus minus.
Okay. That's okay.
Once these projects are bidded, all the activities are here. There will be some more. So at the end of, or by the middle of this summer, we would certainly have all of those completed. In addition to moving forward with phase 2. And by the end of next year, or end of this year, we should be right at 66% completed.
End of 2020?
Yeah, 2020, this year.
Calendar year.
Calendar year, December 31st.
Okay.
That is the plan.
And another statement that I heard was that we were going to lead with the big projects first. Could you name some of the big projects?
Your larger projects, Forest Hill, Callaway, Murrah, Lanier, and
examples of the projects, not just
what that entails, right at 7 million, 8 million, 1.3 million at those particular schools. That's HVAC, roofing, interior design, lighting, exterior lighting, walkway improvements, as well as driveway and parking lot improvements.
In some of those, I know, at least in the instance of Callaway, we needed to rebid. Were there others of those large projects that we needed to rebid?
Callaway and Forest Hill.
And Forest Hill?
That's correct.
Okay.
And we feel
And
very
those are the
confident.
two largest?
You're correct. Those are the two largest. And we feel confident that we will be within budget this time because we've broken out some of the projects. We're not doing it, we're not doing all of them at one time. We're going to do it in phases. So we feel very confident that we can get good cost for those particular projects.
And will those be done by the end of 2020? Are you including those in the calculation?
I'm including those 2020 as
Okay.
well, because that work has to start and be completed as much as possible by the end of the summer.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. McCracken.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. According to data released by the Department of Justice, more than 1.7 million teenagers experience homelessness within the United States each year, and approximately 6,500 students are in custody of child protection services. 13% of Jackson Public School scholars were identified as homeless, and 3% of JPS scholars were in foster care in the 2018-2019 school year. Our purpose as a district is to provide McKinney-Vento and foster care, our scholars identified by McKinney-Vento and foster care, to provide them with the services that they need in order to reach their highest possible success. And to achieve the same standards expected of all scholars, regardless of where they attend school or regardless of their home circumstances. Dr. Faith Strong, who's the McKinney-Vento homeless liaison and the point of contact for foster care with Jackson Public Schools, will join us now to share more information about these challenges and the resources and programs in place to support our scholars.
Good evening. Good evening. To Madam President Johnson, members of the board, Dr. Green, I am here to present on two of our special populations, supporting our village, providing educational stability for McKinney-Vento and foster care students. In December of 2015, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act was amended by embedding federal education law requirements that emphasize school stability and success for students who are identified as homeless and those in foster care. The need for educational stability is vital. This is because our students that are McKinney-Vento and in foster care change schools much more than their peers, which leads to a multitude of educational issues, including lower academic success, attendance and behavior problems, as well as social and emotional issues. As a district, we do provide educational services. We connect them with wraparound services, and we also make sure that they are involved in extracurricular activities in order for them to achieve the same standards expected of all students, regardless of where they attend school. The McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act and the Fostering Connections Act are two separate acts. And once again, it was amended in December of 2015, but they are closely related. Basically, what this slide means with the amendment is that children who are placed in foster care cannot be considered McKinney-Vento. So let's take a look at who's eligible for McKinney-Vento services. Children who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. Well, what does that mean? This means, can the child go to the same place every night in a safe and sufficient space to sleep? As of right now, our McKinney-Vento count in Jackson Public School District, 3,130 students. As we look at our residence codes, the following: we have 31 of our students in hotels, 42 of them in shelters, 8 of them are considered unaccompanied youth. That means that they are not in the physical custody of their parents. And then majority of our students who are McKinney-Vento are doubled up. That means that they are living with other relatives. who's eligible for foster care. These are children who are placed away from their parents or guardians and for whom the Child Welfare Agency has placement and care responsibility. There are approximately 6,500 students in the state of Mississippi in foster care, and our count in Jackson Public Schools is 76 students. So as we look at the major components of ESSA, which is Every Student Succeeds Act, the responsibilities of the work that we do on a daily basis are broken down into 4 domains: the law, projects, services, and the community. By law, we must immediately enroll the students in school. Every decision made for the families who are identified as McKinney-Vento and foster care, the best interests of the students are taken into consideration. They must enroll in enrollment services, which is located at Poindexter Complex. And if a student who was previously identified as McKinney-Vento in foster care, they can stay in their same school of origin, and we will provide transportation to them. As far as projects, professional development is conducted throughout the school district. Each school has a liaison that communicates with me to make sure that our students are successful. We also have shelter collaborations, and one example would be where we participated in the annual Project Connect Day of Service with Stupop community, and that was held in September of last year with Stupop. Some services that we provide include school supplies, personal hygiene kits, backpacks, uniforms, you name it. Also, we are able to purchase birth certificates as well as provide them with graduation fees and field trip fees for our students. In addition, we do have several students who are in shelters, and we do have 12 certified tutors that go out to the shelters and provide support to those students. And as far as the community, we collaborate, of course, with MDE. Also, we collaborate with the Continuum of Care, which is a COC with the City of Jackson, and also with the Mississippi Department of Correction, of Child Protection Services for foster care students. We have a resource guide that is available throughout the district that outlines different areas in which families need assistance. Some of those areas include health and medical services, employment assistance and opportunities, housing, child care, educational services, court and law enforcement. So as I stated, we collaborate as a team, myself as well as Dr. Merritt, who is Executive Director of Federal Programs, along with Turney Kirsch, who is the Bureau Director of MDE, Mario Johnson, who is the Bureau Director of the Mississippi Department of Child Protection Services, and Christiana Knight, who is the Director of COC. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question, Dr. Strong, and thank you for this information. It's vitally important. Even when we all came onto the board a couple of years ago, the numbers, particularly around homelessness, were significantly higher than what's reported here now. And I'm just wondering what that may be attributed to, and whether or not there may be a tendency for our homelessness numbers to be underreported.
Well, actually in the state of Mississippi, or in Jackson per se, they consider us for our McKinney-Vento account to be much higher. But we have streamlined our process, making sure that everyone comes through Poindexter to register instead of at the school, so we can make sure that we are providing the services to them. However, over that 3-year comparison of data, there was like close to 4,900, and then the next year, the numbers dropped, and then now they are going back up. So we are working extremely hard, making sure that we are pinpointing each one that comes through our office.
Yeah, I guess what I'm wondering is, do we feel pretty confident in those numbers, or do we suspect that there are more children out there that we are not aware of, at least in this count?
Well, as of right now, I would say that I feel confident since I have transitioned into this position in July. And so as they come through, I'm making sure that we are hitting each one, but each month as they come in and register, our numbers are increasing. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question. What services do we provide for students who are included in the counts?
So the McKinney-Vento services,
Yes.
we provide, well, first of all, it's funded through the McKinney-Vento sub-grant through MDE. And so with those funds, we provide backpacks, uniforms, personal hygiene kits. In addition to that, we make sure that they, just say for instance, shelter. When they're at the shelter, the directors will contact me, make sure that transportation is set up for them to be picked up on time. Working with schools, if their attendance is not where it needs to be, they will contact me and we'll make sure that it's not an issue on our end. So there are basically a lot of services that we provide to these students throughout our grant.
As well as the tutors.
Right, as well as the tutors.
And support for graduation fees and those sorts of things, field trip fees and those kinds of supports that may be missing from the home. There's probably some other things that we're not naming.
Are the parents, are any of the parents involved in any of this?
Yes, ma'am. As the parents come in, there is a needs assessment that we have them to complete so we can receive feedback on what additional things they may need or services they may need. Any other questions?
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Strong. Board members, we, as we continue to, one, to scrub our data, as we continue to, in the name of equity, understand who our students are, what their circumstances are, what the needs are, and how we can best meet those needs, we know that we'll have to keep pressing ourselves to ensure that we fully understand where our students are and what those resource needs are. And so you should see over time a tightening of the kinds of requests that we make for partnerships and contracts and memorandums of agreement and that sort of thing as we seek to, again, better understand the scholars and their needs as well as ways that we can help to meet those needs. And while our sweet spot as an organization has to be teaching and learning, we know that that can't happen if a child is feeling unsettled in terms of their home life or food or whatever the challenges might be. And so we'll continue to look for really smart and thoughtful partnerships with others in those spaces so that we together can help to meet those needs and get the young people across the finish line.
And I would just add, Dr. Green, that of course, the nature of my questions are simply to make sure that as many of our children get all the resources that they can possibly get as needed.
And I appreciate the question. I actually don't know that I'm not certain that we've identified all of our young people. The reality is we don't always make it easy and don't always make it comfortable. Right. For families to name that they're not, that they don't have a stable home life, right? And so while I'm so glad that Dr. Strong and the team is working to really build out stronger communication tools and processes and streamlining those things so that it isn't a re-traumatizing experience for families, the reality is human nature doesn't always lend itself to folks naming that, hey, while I may have had a stable home previously, now I don't. And so I might need some additional resources. I do believe that as we continue to lead with equity and considering the relationships that we need to build with families so that they trust that we're not going to share their information and that we really will deliver with additional resourcing that folks will come to us when there are such needs.
Thank you.
It's the real work of educating young people.
Yep.
With this, board members, that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Green, and as always, the reports were enlightening and informative. We have come to the public comment part of our agenda. Do we have anyone?
Board members, you have one person who signed up to address you this evening. Councilman DeKeitha Stamps would like to address you regarding optimizing for equity.
Okay, before we get started, I just want to set expectations for our speaker. You, of course, will have 3 minutes, and Attorney Turner will keep your time. Public comments are very important to us, and we will listen and consider, but of course, we will not respond. If there are any issues, you can take them through to administration, and of course, board members can always be reached via email.
Okay, well, first, thanks to the good Lord for allowing us traveling grace to get here. Thanks to Dr. Green for your leadership and your hard work, the board, all of our educators, administrators, parents, and students. I know JPS has come a long ways. I know when I was in high school at Forest Hill, I took Spanish 1 and 2. And now I can barely make it out of the alphabet in Spanish, and that young lady did the whole Pledge of Allegiance, so JPS is definitely moving forward. I want to first off by saying thank you for being part of the inflection point of Jackson. The work that you're doing and that we're doing down the street, I believe, is that inflection point that's going to turn the city of Jackson to a new chapter and bring us to a new horizon. So thank you for your voluntary support and your willingness to serve the city of Jackson in these capacities. Also, thank you for the work you've done with the Optimizing for Equity. We've been in this process for a couple years now, and it's some gut-wrenching work to do. You have several parameters that you have to meet that I don't even know about, with all the different MDE and all those different things that you have to deal with. Hats off to you for making those hard decisions that some of them should have been made a long time ago, which takes real leadership and real intestinal fortitude. And I definitely supported the last round, and will support this round as well as we move forward. You know, in our neighborhood, out in Ward 4, we're the western side of Jackson. For those who don't know, our area goes from Northside Drive and Livingston Road all the way across the west side of Jackson to Sywell and McClure. So we go all the way from Northside Drive to Byron in our ward, and it covers a lot of area. We've closed a couple schools last year. We're totally in support of probably 99% of the Optimizing for Equity plan. We just ask that we just take a little deeper dive into one piece of it when it involves Sywell Middle School. There's some things that have been done in previous boards that has caused us a little destabilization in the area. When the IB program moved out of there, we lost a development across the street on the corner of Sywell and Highway 18, where a developer had about 200 houses. He was approved for a subdivision, and we were only able to sell about 6 of those houses. And so as we make plans for this corridor, we just ask that you just take a look at it. We're not saying that we're going to rail against anything, but we just want to take a deeper dive into the decision about moving Sywell, and we just ask for a little deeper consideration in that endeavor. But if not, we will leave out of here as one unit, supporting and continuing to champion the hard decisions that you make here as a board for Jackson Public Schools. So thank you very much for your time, and continue with the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Now, let's see, Ms. Thomas, do we have any discipline cases for review? Board members, we do have one discipline case, and we need to decide whether we want to handle it now or handle it when we consider executive session.
I move we hold it during executive session.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we hold the discipline case for review until executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? There being none, the motion has been approved, and we will hear the disciplinary case when we consider going into executive session. Now we have information-only items. Mr. Johnson. Uh-oh. Dr. Grigsby.
That's okay. Good evening, Board President Letitia Johnson, members of the board, and Dr. Green. I'm bringing to the board for information on behalf of Stephen Johnson and Bates Elementary, the Partnership for a Healthy Mississippi. The Partnership for a Healthy Mississippi has chosen Bates Elementary School to receive full health technical assistance under the Partnership's Whole School Healthy Community, Improving the Culture of Health in Mississippi project funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. An action plan that includes but is not limited to the following has been created: to host professional development on healthy eating and diabetes, cultural fairs, implement physical activity initiatives, asthma education management, and training class on CPR and first aid. And upon completion, the school will receive a $100 gift.
Thank you, Dr. Grigsby. Board members, are there any questions or comments?
Sounds like a good program, good opportunity.
All right, we're moving right along. Ms. Bingham.
Oh, my goodness, I am being very clumsy. I'm being very clumsy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have, along with me, I have Miss Corinne Duretto from Fast Forward. She is our representative, that's our consultant with the district, as well as Miss Hope Pearson. She is new to our team. Well, she's been in the district, but she's new to our team as far as she's assistant space supervisor. And one of her roles is she's the director of implementation for Fast Forward, as well as the 504 coordinator. So tonight, the Office of Exceptional Education Services is presenting to the board for review of renewal services with Scientific Learning, Fast Forward, to provide a reading and language intervention services to students with disabilities in Jackson Public School District. So I'm gonna pass it over to the team so they can go a little deeper into what the program does and how it's been used thus far.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is my pleasure to speak with you and share a little bit of background in brevity about the program itself. And then we'll also share a little bit about our implementation, the gains, and the progress that we've made thus far. Fast Forward is a computer-based program. It's an intervention program. Currently, it is used with our exceptional education population. Our students are, the target population is K through 3rd grade, but it also includes some 4th and 5th grade scholars who have not responded to the identified intervention program that they are currently using. It is an Orton-Gillingham-based approach. It has been beneficial in populations such as impoverished students, English language learners, and struggling readers, which would include our Title I scholars, our students who are in the RTI or MTSS process, of course, our students with disabilities as well. The outcomes, just to name a few regarding the program, are improved memory, attention, processing speed, and sequencing. So when you consider our students with exceptional education rulings, these are some of the underlying cognitive impairments that plague our students. Some of the characteristics of the program are it allows for high rates of frequency and repetition, also adaptability and a high level of scaffolding in response to the students' answers. Not only does it have simultaneous development and balancing, but also it offers this timely feedback. Having served as an exceptional education teacher myself, I know how very important timely feedback is in that moment. It also has layers built into the program that will flag the student and notify the instructor. It has a monitoring tab where the instructor can actually see when the student is having problems so that they can watch from the computer screen or monitor that student sitting side by side with them. And going into a little bit about our implementation thus far, we started out the school year with 2 goals. We sat down and we developed that we wanted to monitor the CAPS, or the completion, the attendance, and the participation. We have scales or levels within the program, percentages that if a student is meeting at least a certain level of percentage, that program takes over with the scaffolding and the timely feedback. So we've learned that if we can get the attendance and the participation, the completion rates are already kind of following along. Also, we were striving for each school that has the program to achieve at least 70% of complete at least 70% of at least one product. There are several products that the student can move through. It actually goes from pre-K level all the way through high school and college. It even has an ACT prep component that's even built into it. So it speaks to a wide range of deficits and abilities.
So now let's talk a little bit about the gains that have been made this school year with those goals in mind. The most exciting thing about this is really looking at so far, and this is just the students that have completed enough of a product that we can look to measure some results for them. 128 students have completed that follow-up and reading progress indicator assessment. That's built into the Fast Forward program. That assessment, that measures and assesses decoding, reading comprehension, vocabulary, and, oh good Lord, phonological awareness. So out of the 128 students that have completed enough product and have had to trigger that follow-up assessment, the average reading level gains for those students was 5 months. 5 months in 85 calendar days, and that's 13 days of training that they have been able to complete, and that's the average for those 128 students. Very exciting for us to see 5 months growth within 3 months. That smaller population we will expect to see grow as the students complete more products throughout the year. More students reach that level of completion. A little bit of a breakdown about that, and looking at the distribution of that 5 months growth for those 128 students. Up to 6 months growth, 68 students. So the majority of that fell within that up to 6 month growth. We had 26 students, so still a larger number of students who had 6 months up to a year growth. Again, in that 3 month time frame. And then finally 25 students, which to me was also incredibly exciting, had made over 1.5 years growth within that 3 month time frame.
You have with you in your packet, further data that supports the gains that the students have made, as well as it gives you the explanation of what students are using it, as well as the locations of the school sites. Currently in our district, we have 23 school sites that are using the program, so that's listed in your packet as well.
This is year 2
Yes, this is year 2.
of implementation.
Right, and this year is year 1, Ms. Pearson leading the charge, and we've seen that's why we're really focusing on the data from August to now. With her really leading the charge, we've seen an increased rate usage from the teachers, the students. I wish we had some of the teachers here to just see the excitement of the students. They've been competing for different things like headphones for the reading assist. We were like, we didn't think they really want that, but they have really been putting the students on there, using the product, and we're seeing the gains from it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Are there any questions?
That's wonderful.
I have a question. How far behind are these students starting out? Because looking at the data, so there's 5 months of growth, yet the vast majority of these students are still in the 1st to 29th percentile. So I assume there's students in that 1st to 29th percentile who are still achieving that 5 months of growth, but there's because they're starting from so far behind. Is that accurate?
Correct. Exactly. Can you do like just an average of
I just want to share there's a wide range of scholars, inclusive of some classrooms and scholars who have significant cognitive disability determinations. So they may even been working on an alternate curriculum, okay? Not the traditional curriculum. So some of those scholars are very far behind. And all the way up to some of our scholars who are on the traditional diploma.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, board members?
Yeah, it's a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Robinson?
Good evening, Board President Johnson, board members, Dr. Green. The administration is presenting for information to award a consultant services agreement with IMS Engineers. This consultant services agreement authorizes IMS Engineers to provide staff augmentation, project management support services for the 2018 bond program, Phase 1 projects. This staff augmentation, project management support will assist the current JPS bond team to increase staffing to ensure Phase 1 projects are completed by December 2020. IMS engineers will provide support services in the following areas: scheduling, review of specifications and drawings in various design phases, budget review, phasing and coordination, progress reporting, and construction administration. Firms that responded to the request for statements of qualifications for architects and engineers for Phase 1 of the 2018 bond program that was issued in September 2018 were reviewed. 3 Jackson-based engineering companies were selected to be interviewed on their project management experience. Interviews were held on Tuesday, October 29, 2019. The interview panel ranked the firms according to their responses to their interview questions. The top-rated firm for each panel member was IMS Engineers. IMS Engineers will be evaluated based on their task, scope, items outlined, noted in Exhibit A, if this contract is approved. The firm will provide monthly detailed summaries of work performed. The funding for the consulting support is from the bond investment income from the original 65 bond fund. Any questions?
Ms. Robinson, could you tell us a little bit more about the objective process by which they were selected?
So in September 2018, an RFQ was issued for architects and engineers to provide services for the bond program. Initially, when we looked at all the RFQ responses, the architects that were determined were or selected were the 8 that were Jackson-based. Engineering companies could not be the overall design firm for the projects because of the scope of services that were needed. So we needed to have a professional licensed architect. So that's why these firms that were interviewed later for this process were not selected initially. Now these firms could be a sub-consultant for an architect firm, but not provide the overall design for our schools. So when we went back and looked at the RFQ of those that submitted initially, we found that there were 3 Jackson firms that had project management experience. And based on that information, we interviewed those companies.
Any questions or comments, board members?
Can you say a little more about what you were looking for when you interviewed?
Okay. So we were looking for a company that had sustained project management skills, had a degree of, they had internal work processes already in place, and then they had availability of staffing to support our projects. So we looked at those criteria to see, okay, who do you have in place right now available to work on these on these projects? And we met with IMS prior to today on several occasions, identifying the key personnel that would be assigned to our projects and knowing where we are in construction, design, or bid phase. And looking at that, and we determined what those key personnel people would be. And you can look at the tax matrix. We've really identified what school, where we're going to insert them at on each phase, and who would be that person who's going to be on that project. So we think we've done really deliberate deliberations and working with the project scope in advance to know that we could be successful and then mitigate any concerns about being behind on phase 1 so we can ramp it up, and as Mr. McCracken stated, to be 2/3 complete by the end of the year.
Thank you.
I've got one other question. Have we contracted with IMS before? Do you know?
Not in this capacity. We have used them as an engineering firm before on HVAC replacement projects, and also in Kirksey design and some other structural projects.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Board members?
Yes. have we run references on this firm?
Yes, we did call references with both Alcorn University, the city of Memphis, and also Hinds County. And we also did call a former employee with the city of Jackson who had worked extensively with them.
And what was the feedback shared from those references?
The feedback was that they would recommend them for work, that they had demonstrated that they were effective communicators and project planners, and then that they would interact with us well, and that as long as they did say we, talk up front and really outline what processes we need, what would be the responsibilities, and identify our key personnel up front, and that would just be any good project management planning strategy.
And from what department did you contact with the city to get a reference on their work?
Okay, so it was the former interim public works director. He's no longer with the city.
Okay, so just to be clear, Alcorn State University, the Hinds County Board of Supervisors, the city of Memphis, and the former public works director of the city of Jackson all recommended this firm for this work. They gave a strong reference for this work.
Yes, they did.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Grigsby?
Greetings again.
Greetings.
You all may remember not too long ago, the city of Jackson was selected by the Bloomberg Philanthropies as a winner of the Public Art Challenge for its project, Fertile Ground, Inspiring Dialogue About Food Access. As part of the $1 million citywide exhibition, Galloway Elementary was chosen to have an art installation, a learning garden, as well as maintenance of that garden through April 2021. The cost for the project will be the responsibility for the partnership between the City of Jackson, Community Foundation, and Bloomberg.
Board members, any questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Grigsby.
Thank you.
Ms. Miller?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ms. Johnson,
Good evening.
Dr. Green, members of the board. I have two items for information action tonight. The first one is the approval to approve the ratification of a lease agreement with S&S Apache Camping Center, which is located at 1820 Terry Road. This is our 16th section property. They have been longtime lessees with the district. They had previously a 20-year lease that expired. We entered into a 5-year lease that recently expired at the end of 2018. And after some intense conversations, we have agreed to a 2-year continuation of their lease. So this is being presented to you for tonight for ratification.
Okay.
Item B is I'm very pleased to announce a new 16 section lessee, and this is a 30-year lease that we are very happy to see. It'll be located, it's with Zeno Holdings LLC, and I've spoken personally with the owner and his son. They are very excited about the property at the corner of McDowell and Gallatin. They'll be establishing an asphalt company there, which is actually really, really good for us to have local, that type of local vendor in Jackson that will hopefully help us with parking lots and things of that nature. So we are presenting these two items for your approval.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Board members, are there any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve the information action items A and B?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Hilliard has moved and Dr. Harrison has second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? There being none, the motion is approved. Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Thank you.
Next, board members, we have the consent agenda items, finance. All of the consent agenda items have been reviewed by the board previously, and we've had an opportunity to ask questions of the administration. Are there any additional questions? If not, board members, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda item finance?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Luckett has moved, Mr. Figurs has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? There being none, the motion is approved. Next, we have the consent agenda item general. All of the consent agenda items have been reviewed by the board previously. We've had an opportunity to ask questions of the administration. Are there any additional questions? If not, board members, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items general?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Sivak has moved, Ms. Hilliard has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? There being none, the motion is approved. Next, we have the consent agenda items finance. Again, all of the consent agenda items have been.
Personnel.
Personnel? Oh, sorry, personnel. Personnel have been reviewed by the board previously. We've had an opportunity to ask questions of the administration. Are there any additional questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Luckett has moved, Dr. Harrison has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any nays? There being none, the motion is approved. Is there a consideration to hold executive session?
I move that we close the meeting to consider holding executive session to take up the matter discussed earlier.
Dr. Luckett has moved.
Second.
Dr. Harrison has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? There being none, the motion is approved. We'll now close the meeting to go into executive session. To consider going into executive session.